Welcome to the 2018 Religious Broadcasters Convention here at the Opryland Hotel. Please join Herman and Sharron, already in progress.
Welcome to Nashville.
Your favorite place, one of your favorite places.
Really, I love this area. This is the Religious Broadcasting Convention, and if you have seen videos before, interviews on the floor,
right?
This is all brand new. So, it's hard to tell them they're looking at a brand new series.
Yes.
But we have
brand new people.
We have physically, right here at the convention, one of my favorite guys. From time to time, he has actually been in our studio.
Yes, he has.
And he and his wife got really smart lately.
They moved to Florida.
They moved from St. Louis to Fort Myers, Florida. And take a look at my guest. It is so good to have you.
Yeah.
It is so good. Let me give you a little background on William
Federer.
J. Federer. He's a best-selling author and nationally known speaker and president of Amerisearch Inc., a former U.S. congressional candidate. In fact, he came so close. You almost were a congressman, weren't you?
It was very close.
And the guy is absolutely brilliant in politics.
You would have been great.
His daily radio feature, America Minute.
American Minute.
So they are precise, but dead on. I don't know how you do them. How you do it? You start and stop at the precise time. It's amazing. So that's one thing. He's a popular television program, Faith and History. Broadcast nationally. Federer brings informative, educational answers on important and crucial topics. He has been praised by Dr. Ben Carson for his tremendous research revealing the true intent of the American founding fathers. His books in my office are the only ones I can't give away. They are the best.
I got to tell you, my sister just said to me the other day, she asked who we were interviewing while we're here, and I said, well, the first one is William Federer, and she goes, oh, I love that
right off
man.
the bat.
You could have him on every week. I learned so much from him.
Right off the bat.
That's true.
So I don't forget it. But he sends me the books, and it's a gift. But you have, in fact, this is volume 3. This is fabulous, absolutely fabulous. How do you compile that?
Well, I years ago put together a radio spot and then gradually began to have it recorded for television. And that particular series is done by Cornerstone Television out of Pittsburgh.
Yes.
And but it is well done in the sense that they had me in front of a green screen, and so behind me they're putting pictures of ships and storms and battle scenes and everything. So whatever I'm talking about, you see behind. So it looks like a PBS special.
It is. It is well done. Something that you want to watch, which is, we are in TV, and it's like you've got to see something that really pulls you in, or you're not going to watch it. But this is a late book.
Right, so this is the treacherous world of the 16th century, how the Pilgrims escaped it. And it goes through, why did the Pilgrims leave in the first place? There was no freedom of conscience in Europe. You had to believe the way the king did, or he would burn you at the stake. And so that's when you had the Pilgrims fleeing to Holland and then eventually fled to America. I go through some other things. One was the invention of companies. In the Middle Ages, there were no companies. If you wanted to do something, it was a sin called usury, to pay or receive interest. So if you wanted to do some big endeavor like sail around the world, you had to hit up some rich guy to underwrite it, or some king. And so when the Reformation happened, Holland started what is basically the first company. It's called the Dutch East India Company. And anybody, a blacksmith, a cook, a farmer could invest money in a boat going to Indonesia. When it came back filled full of spices, you would get paid a profit. If you wanted to sell your ownership in the boat, you would go down to the Amsterdam Stock Exchange. They invented the stock exchange. If your boat sank, they invented insurance companies. That was a Dutch invention. Of course, the Dutch settled New Amsterdam, and they had a wall around it, and that's where they would go to trade their stock. And when the British took over New Amsterdam in 1664, called it New York, and it was Wall Street. So it's a way that individual citizens can participate in doing great endeavors and businesses, and they all partake in the profits. But that went back to Holland, and that was in the 16th century. And so when the Virginia was founded, it was the Virginia Company that founded it. And it was a pretty good deal for the king. He didn't have to risk anything, but he got a percentage of what came in. And so, but the Virginia Company went bankrupt, and so they threw it in the king's lap, and he had to send over a royal crown governor, so he's ruling the thing directly. And this is where it gets interesting, because the Pilgrims were going to land in Jamestown. They get blown off course 500 miles, and they're in Massachusetts. They try going south, but there's the graveyard of ships. 3,000 ships have been shipwrecked at Cape Cod. And so the captain almost sank. He goes back, he says, okay, Pilgrims, get off the boat. We're not going to sail anymore. And the Pilgrims say, we have a question. Who's going to be in charge of us? There's no king-appointed person on our boat. They do something unique. They give themselves the authority to start a government, and it's a little polarity change. Like magnets or an electric switch, instead of a top-down form of government, it is a bottom-up form of government. It's called the Mayflower Compact, where we covenant together to form a civil body politic, to pass laws that we think are necessary, and we agree to submit to them. It's simple, it's revolutionary, because the whole rest of the world is ruled by top-down pyramid-type kings. And so the Pilgrims' experiment was taught to them from their pastor, John Robinson. He's one of the founders of the Congregational Church, where everybody in the congregation voted. He simply took his church government and made it the community government. So our form of government, where everybody votes, goes back to consent governed by the consent of the governed, and that's this congregational form of church government. And so you get to see in this book all these little seeds of what we have today.
When you hear about politics today and the fact that we're trying to get away from the founding fathers, their intentions, how do you assess that?
Well, there's a communist tactic called deconstruction, where you separate a people from their past, get them into a neutral where they do not remember where they came from, and then you can brainwash them into the future you have planned for them. So it's a sales technique. If I was a toothpaste salesman, the first thing I would do is say negative things about the toothpaste you are currently using. You're still using that old stuff, don't you know it'll dry out your gums and eat the enamel off your teeth, and ooh, you're repulsed by it. Now you're open-minded. What are all the toothpaste out there nowadays? And then I can give you my pitch for this brand new tartar-controlled breath freshener stuff. So what they do is they go into the classrooms and they say negative things about the founding fathers. They took land from Indians, sold people into slavery, and ooh, the students are repulsed by them. Now you got the kids into a neutral, they're open-minded. What are all the belief systems out there? Then you can give them your pitch for socialism or LGBT or Islam. And Europe went through this. Like a car goes from drive, neutral, reverse, Europe went from a Judeo-Christian past, right? Catholic cathedrals, Protestant Reformation, Jewish neighborhoods. Then Europe went into a secular neutral with the French Revolution. And Robespierre, Napoleon spreading all this French secularism and anything goes, free sex, gay. But now it's entering an Islamic future, with Mohammed being the #1 name for newborns in London, Milan, Brussels. And so in a sense, the whole gay agenda is simply a transition phase. It's a creative way to cut ties with the Christian past, but it's quickly co-opted by an aggressive Islamic future.
But Islam is not for homosexuality and all that. So what's going to happen when they get in power?
Right, so in Islam, it's only wrong if you get caught, and the homosexual is the man on the receiving end.
Oh.
Right, and so the guys doing it think of themselves as super macho, right? They can have 4 wives and animals and all the rest. I don't want to get into it all, but they would capture Christian cities and take the boys from the Christian families, and it was called the sodomy of the Turks. You didn't want your little boy taken, right? And it still goes on today. I've talked to soldiers that have fought in Afghanistan and Iraq, and they would say how a mom would come into the street and beg for their help, and the soldiers would go, they have a boy tied up in the backyard, and that's what they were doing, and the Marines would free him and knock the Muslim guy down, and Obama had the Marines court-martialed for not respecting their culture. And the Marines are like, we thought we were over here to free these people, and here, what are we doing if we can't stand up for them? But it still goes on today.
Wow.
But anyway, it's you see this trend, drive, neutral, reverse. Western civilization has gone from Bibles in the schools to condoms in the schools, and now it's hijabs, Muslim veils in the schools. And so, but when you see history, it's important for us to rediscover the past, because if not, they can push their agenda. I ask people, have you ever met someone who's lost their memory? Maybe they have Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
We have national Alzheimer's.
Yeah, we do.
It is amazing.
Here we are, the freest country the
Good
world has
example.
seen, and we forgot who we are, forgot how we got here.
How would you help President Trump with DACA, the immigration issue? What do you see, and where are we going?
Well, it is interesting when China built the Great Wall of China. The Huns could no longer attack into China. They turned west, and it began to attack tribe after tribe after tribe, and they all spilled over the Roman borders. So in the 4th century, 5th century, Rome was being invaded by illegal immigrants. First they came slow, worked as servants, and then they came so fast they kept their own identity, their own language, their culture, and it broke up the unity of the Roman Empire.
Yeah.
And so the historian Will and Ariel Durant said if Rome would have brought the immigrants in through their schools rather than their slums, if they would have occasionally stopped the immigration to allow it to catch up, Rome could have maintained itself as the greatest champion of Western civilization and just added new blood to it instead of collapsing. So the question I ask people is, how much food do you eat in a year? Imagine if I were to make you eat that in one day. You would die. You need food, right? But you only bring it in as fast as you can assimilate it. So you need immigrants, you need fresh blood, you need new ideas, but you bring them in as fast as you can assimilate it. If not, it keeps its own identity, its own culture, and it's sort of like the book of Revelation, where the iron and clay in the feet didn't mix,
yes.
right? And it ends up collapsing the whole statue. So the way God judged Israel in Deuteronomy 28 says, if a nation hearkens to the voice of the Lord, they'll be the head, not the tail. If the nation does not hearken to the voice of the Lord, the stranger will come in and rise up above them, and they will be the head, and you will be the tail, and you will be in debt. So whenever God judged Israel, he let them get overrun by immigrants.
So we're going the same way.
Hittites.
We're going the same way that Rome went.
Yeah.
On that way down.
Yeah, and so whenever the invaders came into Israel, they disarmed everybody. And so that the Israelites would have to go to their Philistine captors to get their farm implements sharpened, because they couldn't. And so David and Jonathan were the only two in the country that had a sword, because so a nation being disarmed is a sign that you are under judgment.
Wow. So what would you tell President Trump? DACA, immigration issue, would you say, let me share history, because this will happen if we don't change?
Yeah, and I mean, he's been trying to do this, but he's been getting resistance. But again, you bring people in as fast as you can assimilate them. Same way with Christian schools, and then there's a kid who's not saved, and the parents say, we want to put him in the Christian school, hopefully he'll become a Christian. But what happens when you get too many unsaved kids into the school? Yeah. The whole dynamic changes, and now the peer pressure is on the good kids to join the gangs, right? So you bring them in only as fast as you can assimilate them.
That's very good.
You have a chapter on how Islam led to the Dark Ages.
Right, so people forget that all of North Africa used to be Christian. Morocco, Algiers, Tunisia, Libya. There were 250 Catholic dioceses along North Africa. St. Augustine of Hippo was from Carthage, but the Muslims conquered it all. And Egypt was completely Christian for 6 centuries,
yes.
evangelized by Mark, until the Muslims conquered it. And Syria was completely Christian, evangelized by the Apostle Paul, until the Muslims conquered it. The name Christian was first used in Syria. And then Jerusalem was a Christian city. St. Helena was Constantine's mom, the emperor. She builds all these cathedrals. And then the Muslims invade Spain, hold it for 700 years. But then the Turks convert to Islam. They invade what is today Turkey. So all the letters in the New Testament to Ephesus and Colossae and Galatia and Philippi, all those cities were wiped out by the Muslim Turks. The Christians begged the West for help. The West sends help, but it's called the Crusades. But when the Muslims conquered so fast, it ended trade across the Mediterranean, and the Roman Empire was brought to its knees economically, and that was the beginning of the Dark Ages. And so paper came from papyrus reeds from Egypt, Cairo, and the Muslims held back the ships full of paper, so there's a paper shortage in Europe. They wrote fewer books, and we call it the Dark Ages.
How did we overcome that?
Well, when the Muslims...
Even though now it looks like we're back in history.
Yeah. So the Muslims, when they would come in, they would destroy churches and libraries and museums and graves, like they destroyed the grave of Jonah just a couple of years ago. Well, as they were invading into Greece, the Greek scholars were taking their manuscripts and their art and so forth, fleeing to Florence, Italy. So this flood of Greek stuff into Florence is what we call the Renaissance. This rediscovery of this Greek knowledge, and so that is what sparked the Reformation. So now they could translate the Bible not just to Latin, but to Greek. So Martin Luther starts the Reformation in 1517. In 1529, 100,000 Muslims are surrounding Vienna.
Yeah.
And so the Holy Roman Emperor, I know I'm telling a lot of history, hopefully the listeners will catch it.
So does our audience.
So the most powerful guy in Europe was the King of Spain. He was called the Holy Roman Emperor, and he's Charles V. And he's Catholic. And from his point of view, he has a double dilemma. Protestant Reformation on one side, Muslim invasion on the other side.
Oh, yeah.
So he does something unprecedented. He makes a deal with the Protestants. And he lets every king decide what's going to be believed in his kingdom. And so it stops the Muslim invasion, but in the next century, different kings believed different things. So England was Anglican, Scotland was Presbyterian, Holland was Dutch Reformed, Sweden was Lutheran. You get the picture, and they didn't get along, they'd chase each other out. And so the people spilled over and settled colonies in America. And so that's where you pick up with the settling of New Amsterdam was Dutch, and it was settled around 1624, right after the Pilgrims settled, obviously, Plymouth, and then the French settled New France. Jacques Cartier, Samuel Champlain, and so all of Canada was originally New France. And then, of course, Latin America was New Spain, so they were all staking their claims. But why? Because the disruption of Europe, and if you didn't believe the way your king did, you fled.
What caused America to start backing away from the founding fathers, what originally created the United States of America, our Constitution, Bill of Rights? What precipitated that pullback?
A significant stage was the French Revolution. So we had a revolution at the heels of a Great Awakening revival. Before France's revolution, they had Voltaire. And he was this philosopher with his wit, and he would always make fun of Christianity, and he would undermine it, mock it, and sort of like maybe late night comedy shows, and mock it so much that when they decided to get rid of their king, the people had no moral basis, and it turned into a bloodbath, and they chopped off 40,000 heads in Paris. And then they sent their army to the Vendée, western area of France, and they killed 300,000. And they decided they wanted to de-Christianize France. So they didn't want done in the year of the Lord, like our Constitution, so they made 1792 year one. Year one of the Republic, and the year two, year three, year four. They didn't want a 7-day week with a Sabbath rest, because that went back to the Bible. So they came up with a 10-day week. It's called a decade week, with 10 hours in a day, 100 minutes per hour, 100 seconds per minute. And they made every measurement in France divisible by 10. They said 10 was the number of man, 10 fingers and 10 toes, and they called it the metric system.
Oh my goodness.
That's why I never really liked the metric system. But it was an intentional effort to get away from the Christian roots of the country. They turned churches into temples of reason. Notre Dame Cathedral, they put a prostitute up in front, cover her with a sheet, and said, this is the goddess of reason, let's worship her. And so St. Genevieve, who was the patron saint of Paris back when Attila the Hun was scourging Europe in 451 AD, she gets all the city to fast and pray, and Attila skips sack in Paris. So during the French Revolution, they dig up the bones of St. Genevieve and trash them. It was an intentional effort to tear down statues, dig up graves, to separate France from its Christian past. After their revolution, that French infidelity, that French thought began to filter into the universities in America. It became the in vogue thing to be like the French, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so we began to see the movement of the deism and the Unitarianism and the secularism.
And what year would this be?
Probably 1820s.
Unbelievable.
And And so then we had a second Great Awakening revival, and you had Timothy Dwight on the Yale campus. He would sit at the lunch table with the students, and he would let them say all their French infidelity and all their stuff, and when they got done talking, he goes, okay, I listen to you, you listen to me. And he would answer all their questions. And he did this day after day, week after week, and by the time he did, there was a revival that broke out on Yale, and the entire student body became Christian and went into missionaries. And so they're sending missionaries from Connecticut, from Yale, to Hawaii, to Burma, to Jamaica, all around the world. And then in the West, you had a pastor, James McCready. He's in Kentucky, and he has a little church, and they fast and pray for revival. They have a meeting, 500 people show up. We're on 1801. And then another meeting, 1,000, 1,500. The next year, 5,000. The next year, 50. The next year, 25,000 people show up in the woods, and they don't have microphones. And so they build platforms, and every 50 yards another platform, and they're all preaching at the same time. And so this second Great Awakening sweeps America, and we start the American Bible Society, American Tract Society, all kinds of ministries, and the abolitionist movement came out of the second Great Awakening. So you see, we had a Great Awakening revival and the Revolution. France had this Voltaire wanting to get rid of God and their bloody French Revolution. But then we have a second Great Awakening. So we are a country where the rubber band snaps back to faith, where France's revolution became the blueprint for every communist revolution that's ever taken place. This bloody period, kill off all the old order so that you can establish your new perfect society, but it just turns into a dictatorship.
Do you see similarities of where we're headed?
Yes, yeah. And
tell me.
Well, it's in human nature, and it's called sin or selfishness. And just the same way that a little kid wants to take a rattle from someone else, a bully wants to take the ball on the playground, a junior high clique has a diva that's, well, you have people throughout history that learn how to get into politics, and they want to set up their little pyramid structure, and that they're the in person, you have to butter up to them. And so there's this tendency for power to want to concentrate. And we saw that a lot where, it was good that Lincoln ended slavery, but in the process, a lot of rights went to the federal government. It was good that Franklin Roosevelt wanted to end the Depression, but a lot of rights went to the federal government. It was good that President Bush wanted to make sure there's no more terrorist attacks, but he usurped rights so the federal government could read all your emails and track all your credit card purchases. And so the dilemma is that power wants to concentrate. It's a natural thing like gravity, but there's people that want to speed it along, like Machiavelli and Hegel and Karl Marx and Saul Alinsky, and they say, hey, if in times of crises people surrender their freedoms, let's create crises. How do you do it? You send in agitators and agent provocateurs. You find people groups with grievances, and you stir them up till there's rioting, and in the midst of the confusion, people surrender their freedom to somebody promising to fix it, and you're back to a dictator. So I believe that trend has been interrupted because a whole lot of people prayed, and we had this last election. But the struggle is still there, and we need to take advantage of this reprieve while we can. Because if the other side gets back in, it's going to go back to that concentrated power.
It's just like what happened in Parkland just now, at school in Florida. And this is a crisis they're not letting go to waste as far as trying to disarm Americans again. And it's really strong.
Yeah, so instead of focusing on maybe let's look at what these kids are being taught.
Exactly.
They're wanting to take away the Second Amendment right.
Are video games in this issue?
Yes. So again, I use the software program idea that you're a spirit, mind, and body, and your mind is like a super fancy computer. It's more than that, but it's at least that. And your body's like the computer case, which makes it silly for people to argue over what color the computer case is. You know, reds are better than greens. It's like, it doesn't matter what color your iPhone or your computer is, it's what software or what apps are you running on the thing. So it doesn't matter what color somebody's skin is, it's what are they taught? Are they taught doing to others as Jews have them doing to you, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal? Or are they taught there's no right and wrong? There's confusion. I mean, you don't even know if you're a boy or a girl anymore. And so we've been programming confusion into this generation.
That's right.
I think the national discussion needs to not be on guns, it needs to be on what are these kids being taught? Maybe we need to run a virus scan. Maybe we need to go through everything these kids are being taught and see if this taking down of the 10 Commandments. I mean, they do say don't kill on there. Maybe it'd be a good thing to put at least that one back up on the wall. Don't kill, right? But the idea is that in ancient Israel came up with this. Why would you follow internal laws? I mean, what would motivate you to deny yielding to a selfish temptation? Well, Israel introduced the concept that there is a God watching everyone. He wants you to be fair, and he's going to hold you accountable in the future. So you're about to do something wrong, about to steal, nobody's around, you know you can get away with it, and then you remember God is watching. He wants you to be fair. He's going to hold you accountable in the future. Maybe I should hesitate stealing and maybe hesitate shooting somebody, right? But if you get rid of this God, all you have is a bunch of rules. Why follow them? Some will out of habit, others are going to say, forget this. So by getting rid of God, you are basically removing the magnet that causes people to be one of virtue. So Lincoln said, without God, there's no virtue because there's no prompting of the conscience. It's only wrong if you get caught. And if you say, well, maybe we need to go back into the schools and say, let's reintroduce the concept that there is a God watching you. You know, they actually did this study of little kids, and they had them in a daycare center, and they told them nobody's watching. And they left them all in there by themselves, and before long, they're like taking something in from something else. And then they go into the same room, and they said, you're being watched. Somebody's watching you. And then they go outside the room, and the kids are in there like, they don't know if they should take the stuff, right? And so when you have this concept that there is a God watching everyone, it is. So William Jennings Bryan was Democrat candidate for president in 1908. And he said, there is a powerful restraining influence in the belief that there is an all-seeing eye that scrutinizes every thought and act and deed of the individual. So anyway, so the focus should not be on guns, it should be back on what is being taught. The software, not the hardware.
Amen, amen.
Get your book. They're going to be on the screen. You're going to have a website. You can go to that website, order the DVD, which is fabulous.
Yeah.
Your DVDs are worth watching. And I see a lot of DVDs.
Oh, thank you.
But remember, in this whole conversation, it all goes back to what we're putting in here, just exactly what you said. What goes in here will ultimately be expressed in our life. Our children, those around us, everything God is in charge of. If you know Him as your personal Lord and Savior, your life has been changed. You may be battling some problems. You don't know what it is, but you know your life has been changed. Jesus Christ is the answer to every need you may have. God bless you. Bye-bye.
President George H.W. Bush remarked at the National Day of Prayer, May 4th, 1989, "We are one nation under God. We were placed here on earth to do His work, a work best embodied in 4 simple words: in God we trust."